money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third.
What is going on, Degen Nation? Kenny Kim bringing you, the 249th episode of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates and the first one on Mayo Media Network. As usual, I am here with everyone's favorite Canadian, a.k.a. the Canadian Pitbull, a.k.a. the GPP Master. Tyler, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Kenny. I heard a.k.a. Target Brand Bryson as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Little shorter, little fatter. Maybe 0.5 less eyebrows, but I'm here, man. I'm back.
Less
I'm ready
tan,
to go.
too. You're looking white as shit, dog.
Yeah.
You're looking white as shit, dog. Get in that sun, brother. I got in that sun. I went out the last 2 days. I Ollie Snyder jammed it. No hat, just to get this nice glow for the first.
You got to get that sun up here, man. Alberta,
nice
Canada.
glow.
We got a little bit of sun lately, but we'll see what the rest of the weather brings. But I'm excited like you, man. We got a lot to talk about. We got Mayo Media Network. Got to remind everyone, new sponsor. We are sponsored by DraftKings. First off, DraftKings. You can go over to DraftKings, use promo code FGD. I can promise you there's a bonus when you go over there and use it. There's just nothing official today. They're still coming off the long weekend, the July 4th. Happy 4th to all my American brethren and yourself, Kenny, everyone out there.
Wait. There's a FGD, there's a DraftKings bonus for our podcast?
Man. DraftKings bonus for our podcast.
I didn't even know all this. That's money.
I'll tell you what, too. It's a good time to use it because we're going to talk a lot about the John Deere Classic as you introed, but we also have the Scottish Open over there this week. $10, win yourself $20K. And it's probably, well, not probably, it's a much better field than what we're going to be talking about here today, but we're excited to talk about it all. Second promo, I know you were showing off the sweater, but we are always using Fantasy National Golf Club. We're going through their tools. We're using everything over there. Head on over to fantasynational.com/FGD. Get yourself 20% off your first payment, subscription, whatever you want to do. $200 for the entire year. It's $8 if you do it this way for the first week. And that will include the Open next week. So I know we're talking about John Deere Classic, but the Open coming up, going to be pretty exciting. A lot of money, 3 milli makers, everything good to go there.
The Open will be our 250th podcast. We've been doing this a long-ass time, bro, a long-ass time. And this week we get to talk about the John Deere. But first, let's go ahead and talk about this past week. We got Cam Davis taking down, I don't even know the name of the tournament anymore, Rocket Mortgage Classic. Now, here's the thing. When I saw Cam Davis, I didn't realize how tall he was. He's like the white minute bowl of golf. Like if you saw him next to freaking his caddy, it was like a 5-foot height difference. I didn't realize like he was that tall and that skinny. But he came through. What did he shoot? Like 4 or 5 under on the back. Eagled 17 with the chip, which is pretty freaking amazing. And then birdied 18 as well to get in. I mean, it was a fun tournament. I mean, the thing about these events where it's birdie fest and there's not these crazy names, elite names up top. I mean, what ends up happening is these guys are, they're playing for their careers here. Like it's such a big deal. You saw Cam tears coming down for the Rocket Mortgage, Classic, and these are such big time events for these guys. It was a really fun watch with like 18 people within 3 strokes going into the back 9. Bubba going out here redeeming his ass from last week. Why the fuck he didn't do that last week? And that's the thing. That was a good thing about this week. Instead of losing thousands of dollars in the last 5 holes of the event, my ass just lost straight off on Friday. I just stopped even playing this shit. I was like, oh, I suck ass. And so let's go ahead. I had Bryson or Webb in 95% of my lineups. You talked about this last week, Tambo, because like the bottom part of I had a bunch of Norin, bunch of Hank the Tank, a bunch of these lower end guys, but the goddamn guys up top killed me. What'd you think of the event?
Yeah, I thought one thing you said that
I had a bunch of merit too. Bunch of merit. Yeah.
There was some merit to having some Troy there for sure. I like that. And I think, like you said, the main thing was it actually did get a little bit fun on Sunday. Once it was kind of the way it went with Bryson out for me, like I was loving Bryson last week. We'll get to Caddygate because I don't care. There's no excuses here. I'm just saying the guy looked like there was withdrawal conversations on Thursday because he looked like he didn't give a shit. He was hitting everything. We'll get to it in a second. But Cam Davis pissed me off even more because I'm happy for everyone out there that got him. I know a lot of people were on him. This is Keith Mitchell 2.0 for me. I bet Keith Mitchell so many weeks. And the problem I have with it.
I thought you bet him.
No, man, I wish I did. I always bet him. I talk about him for every week, and I love Cam Davis. I said he's got the upside. I just didn't go with it, and that's on me. But the one thing I'll say what pissed me off the most is at least when I lost on Keith Mitchell, it was at the Honda Classic. I was like, there's no way this motherfucker's coming out here winning the Honda Classic. So I didn't feel as bad. But there was absolutely a way Cam Davis was coming out and winning this event. And sure enough, he did in the end. So that one stings even more. I was cheering for Troy Merritt. And by the way, if anyone out there, I know you mentioned on Twitter, but his caddy had the sick trap golf hat on. We're on video now. We need some gear. If you got some good gear, or if you know anybody with trap golf, they've got some crazy shirts on their site. I'm not sponsored by them. I would love to get some of their gear. I thought that hat was dope. I thought all the gear they had was nice. So I was pumped. And then how about this, though? Neiman waits all week till hole 73 to hit a bogey, and it's just at the absolute worst time, obviously being hole 73. What were your thoughts on him?
You want to hear some funny numbers about you want to hear some funny numbers about Neiman? I mean, like he has the same amount of wins and runner-ups as Troy Merritt since he turned pro in 2018.
Yeah, I like those stats you put out.
Since 2018, Troy Merritt has as many runner-ups and wins as Joaquin Neiman. Yeah. I mean, the thing about Joaquin is, like, he doesn't even have that many top fives. He had that win. I mean, he's a great player, and I think I have him future for the Open Championship for him because I love that low ball flight. If it's anywhere, that ball can roll for days if it wants to on those links type courses. I think it's perfect for next week. But man, that guy, he's just, I don't know. Is he overrated?
I think he's overrated. He's young. He's young. I know it gets talked about a lot. We even talked about this last time. He hadn't done anything. I joked about the 2 second places and sitting on the picnic bench eating chips with Sergio Garcia instead of warming up and then takes the L. It's just, he's young, right? He was the top amateur for however long. Like, he's going to be dominant. You can't talk bad about Joaquin Neiman. It's like you said, and what I thought was the most funny is, like you said, Merritt had more wins than both of them combined and was the dog in the 3-man playoff. And he had himself a good week. He's got the short game. It didn't come through on that last hole, but what was that, the 4th or 5th playoff hole? And he just left it short. It was a really tough lie. Got lucky in the bunker earlier. I don't know. I still, like I said, I don't really like these events. I like the bigger ones. I like US Open, the Memorials, not just because the field, but I'm talking from a DFS perspective, a betting perspective. I like those more. These are fun for the long shots. And that's why I said I'm still happy for everyone that came through on the Davis long shot. But like you said, nailed the bottom. We had Davis, Merritt. You love Noren. We had Hank the Tank. I said Haggy. It was going to be Haggy week. He showed up. Seamus Power got into the field late. He was a big conversation piece. Talked about him over at Roto Grinders on Wednesday night. Just a lot of guys up there, man. So it'll make for some fun for this week because it's not that much different. We do get a lot more history at this course. Obviously, TPC Deere Run, but Zach Johnson, Steve Stricker. We're going to bring up these names, but we should talk a little bit. Decky had the COVID positive withdrawal. That crushed some stuff. Webb didn't come through. Reed made the cut, but didn't come through. And then, of course, Bryson, like I said, just going back to that, him and Tim Tucker parting ways.
We'll talk about Bryson. We'll talk about Bryson in a little bit, but I'm sort of different than you. I like watching these events, especially now. Okay, I'll tell you honestly, it was the first week of legal weed in Virginia, right? So I popped 5 gummies, right? And I just sat on the couch and watched it. I don't know, you ever watch golf, man? You ever watch golf on weed? It was great. It was great. It was great, relaxing, watching it. It was funny. But before we get into a couple of stories, be careful with your friends when with the legalized weed. I had 2 friends almost die this weekend. Again, one buddy, he worked for the government, and so he had a security clearance, but now he went private. He's like, let's just try it, man. Let's just try it. I rolled a little joint and puffed it, and he was just looking like this the whole time. He's like, I gotta go to the hospital, man. I gotta go to the hospital. I was like, what do you mean you gotta go to the hospital? He's like, I'm about to die. I had to take him to the hospital. And he was there for a while. They're like, you're fine, brother. It's weird taking people to the hospital. He smoked a bunch of weed and being okay with it. It's strange now. But I like events like this, and it's just a fun watching these guys try and make their careers. And Cam is straight for 2 years now. I mean, and it happened in this event a couple of years ago with Fratelli getting his win. Michael Kim getting his win and missing every cut known to man since that win.
Before and after.
Yeah,
before and after.
So I like, and we're in another event like this. But let's go ahead and talk about Bryson here a little bit. He's always been a head case, but I mean, it just seems like it's just coming more and more now. It's sort of trickling down on top of him with all the Koepka stuff, with Koepka basically getting the better of him, I think, when it comes to this feud. They tried to tone it down a little bit. and say, this guy, his Tim was leaving him anyways. It was just a temporary. They've been they've been together like 7 years or some shit like that. And then he quits like 2 hours before his tea time or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not normal stuff. Something happened. I'm not 100% sure. And then Bryson goes out with tail between his legs back home to Dallas. Dallas, a great city. I was in Dallas for about 3 months in the fall. Right, a beautiful city. Had a great time. Really good strip clubs there. One of my favorites was Chicas Locas. That was a place I went to all the time. There, I actually became like a regular. They gave me a nickname. My nickname was Muy Rapido. Okay, Muy Rapido was my nickname. And before you ask, like why they call you Muy Rapido, don't ask questions you already know the answer to. So Dallas, great time. Big D had fun with my little D. It was great. But he tail tucked in all the way back down to Dallas and not talking to the press. And we had the Phil thing too. We could talk about that. Both of those guys, not great for their look. I don't think, the story that came out on Phil was just rehashing of shit that happened 20 years ago just to get clicks. I mean, he's right, but the way they handle it, I think it was both a little bit of a mistake for both of them. And I think it looks worse for Bryson just because of all the stuff going on for him. And then Phil's Phil. People love Phil. People hate Bryson. That's the difference in this situation when it comes to those two guys. So what'd you think about that?
I couldn't have summed up the last part better, actually. My same thoughts on that portion where, like you said, Phil doesn't need to worry about his brand as much. He's got tons of things have gone on in the past. Everyone loves him more than they ever did. You've talked about it in the past. I know others that have mentioned it, said they actually have done a full 180 on Phil Mickelson. Bryson, people already don't like him, so it kind of just adds to that. I'm not sure if he wants that to be that way, but not showing up for the media.
No, he doesn't. He wants people to love him, dude. He wants people to love him, and he's not getting that, and I think it's fucking with him.
It's messing with him, and then people forget. I think he's like 27, right? So not saying he's old or young. My point is I think it still really gets to him. You said the Brooks stuff for a minute makes a lot of sense. And like you said, I mentioned earlier, but you could tell something had happened. It was very clear. Caddies don't just quit a couple hours before. Like something obviously went down where he just said, fuck it, I had enough, I'm out. And that really got in Bryson's head. Like he was just taking some crazy shots. The withdrawal alerts were out there. Everyone was talking about it. And he just didn't have anything going for him, man. So the Bryson side was probably worse. Like the Phil thing is just like you said. It's kind of like it came out. He wanted to keep it going. He wanted to put it up on a platform, and he did. And that's what he can do if he wants to. And if he doesn't want to, he can also just let it sift below and fall away. So it was just a case of where he wanted to make more noise, saying how he's not coming back and all of these things. But I don't know, man. Bryson's an interesting case, and we'll have to see what happens. He does have the match tomorrow. Don't forget. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday, it's July 6th, and you can watch the match if anybody cares about that anymore. I've said for a long time I don't care about these events, but it's my own take personally. I just don't care for them, and wonder what Bryson will do. I thought it was summed up best today too. Rick Gaiman posted it out, a retweet, and said Eamon gets it. It was Eamon. I think Shane Bacon. I can't remember who was on there talking about it, but they mentioned like, I don't know why Bryson didn't just talk about it right now with the media as he's missing a cut on his way out, because he could have fixed a couple of things there. One, his agent said every relationship in the world runs its course. I don't think that one set too well on the original reading that came out. But then Bryson now is going to have to talk about this at the Open. That's the next time. I mean, we'll see him at the match, but who knows what that looks like. And then we'll see him at the Open when he's trying to prep and get ready for the final major of the season, like or leading into the playoffs and all these things that are coming up. Why would you not have just talked about it, solved it, you control everything, and then move on to the next step? It's sort of how he mentioned it. And I thought that was a great way of putting it. I agreed with Rick, who tweeted that out.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Now he has to, it just sort of carries on, over and over to every event until he says something about it,
Which is bad for a guy that has head games, like you said. Like when he lets these things get in his head, now he has to deal at it every one. He said before, like you mentioned, where Brooks got the best of him, he just, this stuff just slides off, man. It's what's the word he used? I forget what he said. It's flattering is what he said. Like he's the guy that just tries to make it seem like it's all good when clearly it ain't all good, and it really affects your play. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes, but that's probably enough Bryson for this week. He screwed all my lineups, so we're on to next week with
he definitely screwed me too. Let's go on to the listener league for this week. Let's take a look at what they got going on here. The winner was Jay Wickham, a Gups Corner member, Gups Corner 1 and 3. I like to see that. So the winner this week, Jay Wickham, with the Gups Corner avatar, had the Joaquin the Dream Neiman with 72, no bogeys and 72 holes. 118 points, of course, finishing second. Kokrak, who disappointed a little bit on Sunday, 103 points, 34.75% owned. Kisner, who was one of my favorites, he had a pretty decent showing, finished in 8th, 11.68% owned. Tringali, 25% owned, 88.5 points, finished in 14th. He had Cam, 20% owned. In the FGD listener league, solid work there, people. I didn't have any of them. None. 0. So good work. 132 points. And the cut maker supreme, Vincent Whaley, 3.34% owned, 74.5 points. What'd you think?
Yeah, Vincent Whaley back on his grizzly on his grind, man. He made another cut. T58, but 74.5 DraftKings points. By the way, Cameron Tringali, T14, 88.5 DraftKings points. That's just 2 Eagles on the card. Like Whaley, when he makes the cut, comes through in the clutch. Cam Davis, obviously need to have him. Tringali, Kokrak, Neiman. The build was solid if you were fading Bryson, which is what he was doing. Made a lot of sense for single entry or 3 max like this is. Not sure if he had more. Good lineup overall. Got him into the Tournament of Champions League. Got him into the Listener League. Those asking about the Listener League, everything should be the same or get bigger. We're going to figure this out, but as of right now, it looks like everything will be the same or get bigger. We'll talk to Mayo about that, see where it goes from here. Being sponsored by DraftKings certainly now helps. And then shout out, you mentioned first and third, Gup's Corner. Gup himself, 7th place. So doing his thing down there, trying to get up and take this thing down with 594. But shout out Gup for 7th place finish there.
All right. So we'll add them to our little championship, but let's go on to this week. We've been bullshitting too much here. All right, so the PGA Tour. It's in Silvis, Illinois for the John Deere Classic from TPC Deere Run. Tournaments have been played here since like 2000. The beginning years, it was all like first-timers and no-names that won this event. And then 2008, they brought that jet, the charter jet that, flies everyone directly to the Open Championship to try and get some more people in the field. It didn't really work. I mean, occasionally you'll get some big names. But, the funny thing is, it's going to be a weak field. Hold on, let me catch up where I was. So since 2008, since it happened, 7 of the 12 golfers that won this event were inside the top 50 in the world golf ranking. That's the one difference that it actually happened. So like the bigger names actually did show up. They actually did perform pretty well so far. 6 of the 12 were actually in the top 20. I think Berger might be the only one in the top 20 in the field. Now, the only 5 winners that were outside the top 50 at the time of their victory was Spieth in 2013. He was 120th. Harmon in 2014. He's 115th. Bryson Bryson, I think 2017, 144th. Mike Kim a few years ago, he was 215th, and Fratelli was 133rd last year. If you look, Harmon, Bryson, and Spieth, they're all inside the top 50 now. But the main reason I'm bringing this up is because I think this field is way more wide open than it has been, even with the bigger names, even with the big names up top, which there really aren't any. Like there's only like 5 guys in the top 50 playing this week: Berger, Im, Harmon, Nas, Siwoo. Not really like a murderer's row of win equity out there. So pay attention to ownership. It's going to be one of those weeks where you could probably go leave a lot on the cap. I expect a lot of people down below to be able to come up and contend. When it comes to these guys up top, I mean, there's a couple I like, but I mean, it's not going to be my favorite place to go. Now, TPC Deere Run is 7,250-ish yard, par 71, 4 par 3s, 4 par 5, 3 par 5s. Most should be reachable in 2. Par 4, 14th is a drivable par 4 in the right conditions. Course is usually very easy. Ranked in the bottom 10 in hardest courses year in and year out. The thing about it is the par 4 9th and the par 4 18th are 2 of the hardest holes on the course. So like on Friday, when it comes to cut sweats, that could be a little bit of hair raising right there. Now, the one thing about this year is, you might not see the 25 under, 27 under, 30 birdies like Spieth had, just because the winds look like they could be in play a little bit more. I mean, there's about 10 to 15 every day. Could be 20 plus on the weekends. That can always change. So make sure you take a peek at that. Off the tee, golfers just see wide tree line fairways, large fairway bunkers, garden landing zones. The rough, fairly penal, but it doesn't come into play that often, as over 70% of all tee shots land on the fairway. The fairways usually play firm with a good amount of roll, but rainy conditions, that could change that. On approach shots, golfers will see large greens that are guarded by bunkers and collection areas. The greens are very easy to hit, as over 70% of approach shots land on the putting surface. A good wedge play is a must. Like, I think over 40% of approaches come from 125 to 175, somewhere around that area. That doesn't sound like too big of a number, but when you take into consideration that there are 3 par 5s and all 4 par 3s are over 150, you're going to have like 7 to 8 wedges on the par 4s this week. The greens are bent grass, have a bit of undulation and slope, and are somewhat slow. Stick meter rating around 11. Tambo, what are you looking for this week?
Yeah, a lot more scoring. Like you said, the weather will be tough to judge and see what happens. Maybe we don't get the same type of, maybe Michael Kim type scores, but we can get some low scoring out there. I like what you talked about, the 150 to 175. You mentioned 125. It's in there, of course, too, but I like the 150 to 175. Just a lot of shots coming from that range. The approach game, obviously hitting fairways helps here. And then you got to get that putter rolling, right? when ZJ was crushing it and always was back in the day, Strickers, those types of guys, Spieth, we talk about, like all these guys are, and Harmon, these are the guys that make putts. So don't be afraid to play some good putters for once. I know we always like to play the ball strikers and pray that they get hot with the putter. This is certainly a spot you can just play some of those good putters and hope they have their week. We'll get into it at the top, Kenny. I do got a couple questions for you right out of the gate, but anything else you want to add? I guess the last thing I'll say, strategy-wise, just it's no different than last week. Definitely leave some money. By Wednesday of last week, when I was doing the show over at Roto-Grinders with Lineup HQ, we were talking about some lineups with 48, 47 on the table, just the way you could build them out and look at them and just see what they landed like. You still liked 5 of the golfers, and then it was just Bryson at the top, or drop them down to like a Neiman or a Kokrak. And it could have worked out if you had Neiman in there and some of these dudes that we mentioned. I personally got 5 out of 6s on those ones, but I think that this is another week for that. Again, there's a lot of guys that just have to be priced in this upper 10K range. Look at Cam Davis, 10-1. Good segue to go there now, but 10-1 coming off a win. But it's the field strength. It's down even further than last week. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this top range here? And we can get right into it.
I mean, do you play Cam Davis after a win?
Nobody does.
I know. Well, here's the thing about when like a guy gets his first win. Like, I don't mind playing a really good, like, consistent golfers who have been good for a long time, who have multiple wins. I don't mind playing those guys after a win. Like your elite golfers, I got no problem with that. But these young guys, I don't know. I think, especially if they're young and, they go out, they party. I mean, when I was 23, 24, how old was Cam Davis? I don't know. Shit, if I just won like $1.6 million, it's on my fucking Donkey Kong. I mean, they better not fucking drug test me after the fucking round. I can tell you that, because I would fail. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, I don't think I'm like alone in that when it comes to these type of players. These young guys, they go out and they have victories and they go out and party. And so I don't think it's the best idea for him. But like up on the top, I'll go with my cash game cornerstone first. I like Harmon as my cash game cornerstone. I mean, the guy, he's been on a really, really strong run, pretty good course history here, former winner here. A bunch of top 10s here recently, always making the cut. I like him in cash this week. My favorite GPP play up here is Sungjae. It looks like the game is coming back a little bit. You're not seeing, at least you didn't see like that one really horrid round that he's usually had. His iron game has been really, really strong the last few events. It looks like, and Ventita Green last week, I mean, he was really damn good. So he's getting up, he's preparing for the Olympics. I think he withdrew. Him and Siwoo both withdrew from the Open Championship just so he can focus on the Olympics, which is smart because, I mean, with all these guys not playing, the strength of field is going down. I mean, Siwoo and Sungjae might be 10 of the top 10 best players in that field going in. So they got a good shot. And I think they're going to do everything they can to get themselves ready. And the win here would be extremely good for his confidence. So I like Sungjae and GPPs, Harmon, cash game cornerstone.
Okay. And I was going to ask you about that. I was jumbling the ranges a little bit there with Siwoo Kim, but obviously the news came out last week. They went through, you just mentioned every reason why they go into the Olympics. They just need to medal to get themselves their exemption from the 2-year military service. It, like you said, much better shot. I saw some odds came out. I believe the first Olympics odds came out last week. They were 40 and 50 to 1 respectively. It makes a lot of sense. It's a smaller field. That's still big odds. When you can find those, you got to bet those.
Is that just for gold or is that to medal? Is that the gold?
That's to gold. That's to win the event, but you knowing that they need to medal, the motivation's the same factor. If they come up short and pull a Neiman and bogey the last hole and it means silver, you're going to be extremely happy for them. We're all going to be happy for them. That's what we want to see, man. It's such a huge thing.
Such a big deal. I mean, you think about Sang-Moon Bae before his military performance, he was 26 in the world before he left. Sung Jae, 26 in the world right now. Yeah. And when Sang-Moon came back, I mean, you don't even see him. Like, he sucks. Those 2 years.
Didn't he win like a Corn Ferry Tour event?
I have no idea, man. I mean, he just hasn't been the player he was.
No, for sure.
He was the best Korean in the world. And then he had to do the military service. This is huge for these guys. And I think the prep is good. I think avoiding the Open Championship is good. That mental grind to keep them fresh mentally and physically. I think that's smart. But I like Sung Jae this week.
And maybe he didn't. Maybe I'm wrong. I was trying to look it up. But, with that said, so you think this will be more motivation? Like, obviously, the other factor, too, is they don't want to have any COVID restrictions or anything come up if they go over to the Open, get screwed there, and then not get to go. This gives them enough time in between. But, you like Sung Jae. Do you like Siwoo? Do you think there's motivation here because they don't have to worry about getting on that jet on Monday or whatever? They can just go play this event in a weaker field and get a quick W and try for one? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think both the Koreans are live this week to play. Yeah. I got no problem playing either one of them.
Yeah, I like Siwoo's game too. Always boom or bust, but I do like that. Going back to the top, though, for me, rubber hitting the road right here for me, Kenny. How many times have I talked about Daniel Berger and said, listen, maybe you don't remember guys like him, guys like Adam Scott, they only play in these big field events that are strong fields, majors, hard courses. And yeah, you see a bunch of 30ths and you're like, oh, they're not that good. But you got to remember they're going up against the best of the best in the world. They're playing in the biggest events. But when they go to an event, like when Daniel Berger went to the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, Pebble Beach, but the Pro-Am, he goes and ships the thing, right? McNeely hot on his tails. We'll get to him. But you got a guy like that. So for me, I'm still in on Berger. I know the price is up there. It seems crazy, but I'll take some shots on him. I like your Sung Jae call. The game has looked better. Skipping the Olympics or skipping the Open to play in the Olympics, like you mentioned. I like that motivation factor. And then Harman, great history, former winner. Form is 5th, 19th, and 8th. I think he's a guy that will still get love at the top because people play everybody up here. But I'm just saying in general, it does feel a little bit scary clicking a 10.4K Harman. But you got to remember that's just the class of the field and where he's at. So I certainly like him and Berger the most. I get your take, and I do like the motivation factor.
I mean, form-wise up top, he's probably the best. I mean, overall, last 10 weeks, I would say, when it comes to Harman.
It's just a course for him, too.
I sort of like your Berger take. You might have talked me into him. Maybe I play Berger and him up top in GPPs and Harman lightly in cash. Lightly in GPP since he's a cornerstone that could work out just because I'm not the biggest fan of the 9K range. My favorite's going to be Noren, who's my second cash game cornerstone. I mean, he talked about it last week. He missed that punt on 18, which would have gotten him into a playoff. And he's like, he just forgot that feeling. He hadn't been in that type of situation in a long time. And game-wise, talent-wise, I mean, everyone except maybe Berger and Sung Jae, I mean, he's probably right up there with them, I think, just because of the way he's played before in the past. Tough events, second at the Honda a few years ago, a bunch of wins across the pond. So I like the way he's playing. I like that he got that little bit of, that bubble gut feeling, when he was in when he was in there in contention, he got that back into him. Maybe he can use that as something, when he goes and plays out this week. So I do like Noren as my second cash game cornerstone. I'm going to play Siwoo, and I'll probably play Aaron Wise just because, the birdie machine out here. I mean, he's top 10 in DK points and birdies in this field. I think he's first in strokes gained tee to green in this field in the last 50 rounds. I mean, that's still, I know the field's weak, but that's still pretty impressive. If you can just make a putt, I mean, he's like 140th, 135th. In this field and putting. So let's see how he does with that. But I like the bottom range a little bit. I might play Nah. I don't know. I'm going to play. It's going to be Wise or Nah that I'm going to play between one of those two. I'm not really sure because the thing about Kevin Na is he can just go out and win just whenever the fuck he feels like it. I mean, sometimes. I mean, the guy has 4 wins in his last 50 events. I'm not sure if that's enough because his form hasn't been great. But if this becomes a putting contest, he's one of the best out there. So my last decision is going to be Wise or Nah. So we'll see as the week goes on.
It's going to be Wise or Nah. Yeah, you're right. You'll figure it out, right? But the funny part is you mentioned about Noren that I love it gets a lot easier when you don't, coming down to the end. I know he didn't close, but he looked a lot better coming down the stretch. And it's a lot easier when you don't have JB Holmes plumb bumming every single shot and holding you up like he did at the Farmers Insurance that time when Day got the best of Noren in the Monday playoffs. So that was good to see. I do like that Noren call. I like a couple other guys. I'm surprised I didn't mention them at the top. If you are going to fantasynational.com/FGD and getting yourself 20% off, then you would check out their stats and see in the last 50 rounds, they are very high up the board. And that's Russell Henley and Kevin Streelman. So Henley and Streelman both stand out for me from a stats perspective. Streelman, really solid stats, decent history. Henley second here last time out and been playing better. And both of these guys, the last two majors, were just doing enough to get, they had to get TV time because they were doing enough, but then they didn't do enough in the end to come through in the clutch and get that final TV time that they would like to get. But here, I think those two are definitely suitable. Like Henley, Streelman, and Harmon are sometimes the same guy. So I don't really see, you can definitely make those plays down there. The Wise one is interesting to me. It seems really steep, though, considering what's around him. And we got Seamus Power right below him, who's on a nice little run. Was happy to see him get in the field last week at 7,500. Went out, played some really good golf. I'm not sure, the 9K might throw some people off when they just got to play him for 7,500. And I do, just going back to the top for 2 seconds before we hit this 8K range, I do wonder if Berger being the only guy at 11K and where Bryson just busted everyone last week, does that make people a little bit more afraid to go with those Berger type lineups? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, especially, it comes to motivation for him too. I mean, it's not like he needs to win. He's got his card locked the fuck up. It was sort of shocking that he's actually playing this event. He's playing the Open Championship next week. So there's a little bit of risk when it comes down to that. But, I mean, we've seen guys who have played well here and then go across the pond and do well. Like Zach Johnson had a top 5. He went across the pond. I think he won that year. And then Spieth finished top 3 here, finished top 5 over there as well. So, I mean, it's not like it's impossible. But I was a little bit surprised that he's playing in the event, and that's probably why I might have glossed over him when it comes down to. You might have talked me into him, maybe not.
He's really, really talented. It just depends on, like you said, if he shows up. But we're playing tournaments here. We're talking tournaments, at least. I know you got the cash game cornerstones, but when I'm referring to it, it's definitely for large field stuff, and I think he's worth the risk. Let me kick off this 8K range, Kenny. Patton Kizzire, I want to bring him up. I think he'll garner some ownership because he had the hot Sunday. It was him, Bubba, and Noren that all went 8 under on Sunday. But I think if you look, still makes a lot of sense here. Stat models look good. Everything I can see there makes me want to go back at 8,900. Definitely going back to our boy, Mav McNeely. Didn't quite do enough last week, but still lines up nicely here. Troy Merritt continues to play good golf. I said this last week and I'll say it again, and I'm sticking with it. Just, he's cheaper than Davis. He could have won if he could make that putt or this, that, the other here and there at the end. And he's 8,700 now, and he still has the game. And the events he shows up at are low-scoring events. So even if it doesn't get to, like I joked about earlier, Michael Kim numbers, I think he's still going to go low enough to make the cut and have those low days. And he's going to keep grinding, man. He's just a grinder. It's going to make a lot of sense. Lucas Glover, good history here himself. So 10th, 25th, the last 2 times. Stats aren't horrible. Price is okay. My question, Kenny, to you, I'll flip it over now. Do you want to play Glover, ZJ, both, or none? Because ZJ is going to get all the conversation here. This is, the ZJ track, right? So,
yeah, I mean, the guy just plays this course so well. It doesn't even matter. He could be in shitty form, and he hasn't been playing horribly lately. I'd probably swing ZJ, but, and I think he makes sense in cash too. But I'm going not ZJ in cash, at least not in the cornerstones. I might do something wild and add him in cash as one of my final 2 and then go really low for my last one, maybe a little former Virginia Tech alumni down there in the 6,400 range. We'll talk about him later. But I'm going Hank the Tank again. But the guy's just been playing his best golf of his career. And it's not like this is another hard course. He's going out there playing the best golf of his career. He's out there with a little visor on, like it's 2005, and I fuck with it. I mean, he hits it pretty good out there. His iron game has been really, really good. He doesn't make too many mistakes either, and so if the wind blows and it's a little bit tougher than it normally is, and the winning scores in the high teens, 19, 18, which I think it's going to be, just like it was, the last couple of weeks, maybe not that high, but around there. I like Hank the Tank again. I mean, the guy makes a lot of birdies, and I'm a fan of his game, especially here recently. So I'm going Hank the Tank as my third cash game cornerstone this week. But I mean, I'll play Zach Johnson. And then I might go back to Seaweed Doug. Everyone talks the Gim Reaper. I know Pat calls him that, but he actually likes the nickname Kimchi. So I guess we got to call him Kimchi. That's his nickname that he enjoys. He's a little bit more consistent, I guess. Now made 3 of his last 4 cuts. Ball striking is there. Shitty field, 8K. I might throw something down on him. We'll see how that goes. It looks like it's going to be a lot of Koreans for me this week again.
I like your Hank the Tank call, going back to him. I didn't get to the low range, but Ryan Moore, another guy that popped up for me, just stats wise, history, can always go low. He's 8,300. I was debating between Vegas and Gim, your boy down there, and my lean was my lean was Vegas, actually, just because what I looked at too was more of the pop, right? I know Gim's going to get all the love, or usually does, but Vegas just got second at the Palmetto. He went low at the Byron Nelson for a 9th. Neither of them can really putt well. That's the challenge, right? Like Vegas and Gim just have all the game, all the stats, but neither of them can putt at all. And sometimes Vegas just shows up even at bigger events and gets hot and goes low. But he also has a 3rd here in the past. So I do lean Vegas a little bit there. You look on Fantasy National last 50 rounds for birdies or better gained and DK points. Gim is 29th and 27th. Vegas is 9th and 9th. So top 10 in both categories. He's first in par 4s, 400 to 450. So I do like some Johnny Vegas there as well at 8,000 straight.
All right, let's move to the 7K range. I like Pat Perez, the old man. Guy's been playing pretty good golf, making a ton of birdies out there. Played pretty well last week. Has been playing pretty well for the last month, I would say. And I like the way that his game is going. There's still 3 par 5s. He's solid in the par 5s. Again, bogey avoidance is on there as well. Top 15 in birdies or better gain and DraftKings points in the last 50 rounds. Yeah. So I like Pat Perez down here. I like Scott Stallings. He's been playing good golf for a few months now. A couple of hiccups here and there, but for the last 2-3 months, the game's looking pretty good for Mr. Scott Stallings. I'm a fan of his. Iron game has just been really, really strong here recently. I mean, if you take a peek, the guy's been playing. The iron game has been what has been surprising me about how good it is. I mean, he gained 5 strokes on the field last week, and I missed a couple of cuts there. Finished 3rd at the Byron Nelson. I just like the way that he's been playing. I mean, he's not the most consistent guy out there, but when he goes out there, he makes a ton of birdies. So I'm a fan of Scott Stallings down here at 7,400. Just going down a little bit more. Patrick Rogers, again, another guy. This is a Sundog Monkey, a Martin favorite down there, and he's been playing good golf too. And I think the price is more than fair at $7,400. I mean, stat-wise, it's not going to pop, but he has his own type of game where it relies a lot on putting. And he could do his thing out here. And I think he had a pretty decent finish last week. So I like Patrick Rogers down here. Henrik Norlander, again, another guy out there, tee to green. He's been pretty good. Good with his wedges. Like he's top 15 in both 125 to 150, 150 to 175. Again, it's another guy. Can he make a putt? So I like Norlander down here. I might play a little Vaughn Taylor. I might play a little Stricker. So I mean, those are where I'm going in that 7K range.
Do you think Stricker will be popular? That's my question, because I know him and ZJ have both been talked about for the course history factors. He's another course history killer. That's Steve Stricker I'm talking about. And 7,700, I think in models, things like that might pop. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the thing is, he's been, on the senior tour, he's, top 5 and top 10 and everything. I know it's
He just won.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's out there doing his thing. I mean, he's been competitive. I mean, he was 50 years old and he finished 5th in this event a few years ago. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to do well.
Yeah. Oh, hey, APS is a thing. Matthew Wiley, Golflandia podcast, always talks about it. APS, always play Stricker. We talked about it earlier. Play some good putters. Don't be afraid. So he's got the complete game. You don't need to be super long here or anything like that. So I think it's a good call. I kind of like Kyle Stanley as another guy that can't putt but just pops at times. 18th last time with other finishes here of 22nd, 18th, 19th, even a second place way back. He's made 7 of his last 8 cuts. So not a lot of upside with them, but I do think that's interesting. HV3, looked at him a little bit. He just never completely pops. So the issue I have with HV3 is I kind of like going back to him, especially when he's low owned and nobody's on him. But he's not like Cam Davis, where we talk about it all the time, where at least if they make the cut, they give you the upside. We just haven't seen that with them. So Stricker's right there, but I loved your Pat Perez call. He's the guy I had teed up here as a nice little pivot. You mentioned all those reasons, 14th, 10th, the 2 of his last 3 events. Not the best history, but another guy that we know can go low here at any day. So I do like that. Werenski, I really like, coming off of a quiet 25th place. Had it going with approach and the putter. We like that when you're coming into this event. Can go low. Made cuts in 3 straight years here, all of 47th, 23rd, and 25th. So I think that one is interesting. You mentioned the 2 guys I like at 7,400, both Stallings and Rogers. I like that, though, because we don't always line up. But when we do, I like when you didn't even mention the other factors. Is Stallings actually has 3 top 20s here in the last 4 years. You mentioned all his great recent form stuff, 5 strokes on approach last week. Another guy with a quiet 25th place finish. And then Rogers got 41st last week, but that's 4 made cuts in a row now for him. And at this event, he's even got a 2nd place. So the last 3 times out, he's got 43rd, 2nd, and 27th. We're always waiting for him to pop. He's kind of the opposite of Varner, where, in my opinion, if he does make the cut, he's got that upside there. So I do like that. Brandon Hagee, definitely going to stick with him to stay hot. Should be pretty motivated. 6th place last week. All stats, if you look, were dialed in across the board. And then right down at 7,000 even. Great first name, Tyler Duncan, my man T Dunks. Hasn't really flashed the upside lately, but 3 straight made cuts. Gets him the paycheck confidence. Been grinding, and he's got a 26th and a 12th here in 2019, 2018, the last 2 years played. So can go back to T Dunks at 7,000 even.
I might have to throw some Denny in there if this is going to be a putting contest.
Sure.
He's one of the best out
like
there when it comes to bent grass. I don't know his ownership's going to be high. But let's move down to the 6K range. I'll go with my final cash game cornerstone. It's going to be Mr. Roger Sloan, the Canadian brethren of Tyler. Down there. Iron Game's looking strong. Really good on shorter par 4s. For 400 to 450, he's top 10 in the field in the last 50 rounds. Solid when it comes to par 5s as well. Top 25 in birdies are better gained and DK points in the last 50 rounds in this field. I think he's made 3 of his last 4 cuts. So cash game cornerstones this week. They are going to be Harmon at 10,400, if I'm right. Yeah, 10,400 for Harmon. Norin at 9,300. Hank the Tank at 8,400. And I got 6,900 for Roger Sloan. It leaves you, I think, 14,900, 1,500, 15,000 right there to finish off the rest of your lineups. Other guys I like in the 6K range, I like Adam Schenk a little bit. Iron Game, of course, is his biggest strength. He's had a couple of top 20s here, I think, in the last couple of times out here. So I like Adam Schenk as a sleeper down here. What's his name? Landry, another guy, good course history here. When it comes down to the 6K range, I tend to look at course history a little bit harder because, when it comes to stats, these guys just usually aren't going to line up. So you got to figure something out when it comes to these guys. The upper guys, I tend to not look at it as much or like guys who have been really excelling in certain areas in the last 50 rounds, even if they haven't played here well before. I can take a peek. I could look away from that as because, they're playing well now. And then you sort of have to compare that to how they were when they came in here in the past. But Schenk, in the 6K range, I like to rely a little bit more on course history. So I do like Schenk down here at 69. I like Landry at 68. Other guys that I'm going to play, Scott Brown sort of pops for me down here a little bit. I mean, Scott Brown's another guy that I want to play down here. And Mike Ellerman. At 6,400. His iron game has been pretty strong here recently. If you look down recently in the last 12 rounds, where'd he go? There he is. I think he's 12th in the field when it comes to strokes gained approach in the last 12 rounds. He's top 15 in birdies are better gained. Throw a little nudge down there, and then we'll go with my fellow Hokie, Johnson Wagner. At $6,400, another course history guy. He's made, I think, what was it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 6 cuts, 3 top 10s. The form's not really there, but with this type of field, it can happen. So those are some of the guys I like when it comes down to the 6K range.
Yeah, I like the Sloan call you mentioned by Canadian Brethren. Still a good week last week. Liked him last week, 10th here in 2019, 18th back in the day. Shank, who you mentioned, 41st last week, 6th here in 2019. Kind of go. I'll go back to Benny on if he gets a late tee time. He should after everything he threw out there last week. Hopefully he gets a late tee time, can get out there and make something happen. A couple guys, you mentioned one of them, Scott Brown, who I always like, 52nd last week, but his history here is 12th, 25th, 16th, 5th, 22nd, and 7th in 6 of the last 8 times where he didn't miss the cut. So we hope he makes the cut, and then we go from there. Whaley from earlier, the scoring factor. If he makes the cut, I mean, if he can finish 30th here, that could be top 20, top 15 in scoring the way he does things. We just talked about it earlier, comparing him like 45 spots off of Tringali and being right there with them in scoring. Sam Ryder, always like to play me some of him. Extremely boomer bust, but he actually has an 18th and a 2nd here in 2019, 2018. And then Bronson Burgoon. I'm going to take some shots on him. I said here, the B in Bronson stands for birdie. The B in Burgoon stands for bust. You're getting one or the other. It's boom or bust, but man, when he makes birdies, he can score quite well for you. He's got 3 for 3 made cuts. So I think that's a good spot to go to here. And then the shots at the bottom for me, Kenny, unless you got someone else, but Teeter, Tway, Kevin Tway, and Seifert down there. Mix and match those guys. I don't mind them. And then Alex Smalley just got in the Rocket Mortgage. So he went to the Rocket Mortgage Monday Q. I think he missed by a stroke of getting in last week. Grind. That's what they do. Monday Qs, they grind. He goes back out this Monday, makes it, pops a 62, and he's in. 7 birdies, 1 bogey, gets into this tournament. Last time out on the PGA Tour, he made the most of it. It was Corrales, low-scoring event, when Joel Damon won and finished T22nd. So clearly he's got the game to go low. I think that's a spot that you could go down to down below. Anybody else you got down here?
I think I missed Sam Ryder. I'll probably play a little bit. The thing about Ryder, he has like 872 missed cuts in the last 2 seasons, but 5 top 10s. I mean, he's one of those guys who's just can pop out of nowhere. And I think his course history here is pretty good. I mean, I had a couple of top 25s, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll play a little bit of Sam Ryder, and I might even throw a bet on him, maybe like a top 20, top 10, maybe even outright, because the outright's like 175 to 1. If you guys can find an each way on that, I mean, that could be worth it.
Yeah, I like that. 18th and 2nd the last 2 years here. So I'm in on Ryder. I'm always in on Sam Ryder. He can pop at any given time. And it's kind of like that like the Cam Davis play. It could be the Sam Ryder play, not the Cam play, the Sam play down at the bottom. So I don't have him on my card, but let's talk about some bets. What do you got?
All right, I got Sung Jae 17 to 1, Noren 31 to 1, Hank the Tank 60 to 1, Ryder 175 to 1, Shank 190 to 1. And I'll probably add a couple more long shots as the week goes on.
Yeah, I got to think about some long shots. I've got Streelman 25. I've got McNeely 45, we talked about earlier. Vegas 65 with the top 5 each way. Patrick Rogers, 70 to 1 with the top 5 each way. And then Sloan 100 to 1 with the top 5 each way with a bonus bet this week, Kenny. A bonus bet. Martin Keimer over at the Scottish Open, 67 to 1 with the top 5 each way. The top 3 non-exempt get into the Open. He's been grinding. He's been talking about it. I know he's already the second alternate, but that's not a guarantee. So he's certainly going to go after it. I know a T10, T20 might be a little better there, but I don't mind the Keimer 67 to 1, whatever it was. I can't remember now, just looking at my sheet.
All right, before we get into one and done, I want to shout out to Shane Battier. Yes, the nice guy, even though he's a Dookie. Nice guy. You can't blame him for going to Duke, but he hooked me up with this little bucket hat for his foundation. Battier TakeCharge.org. Check it out. It was established by his wife and him, and it's dedicated to providing resources for the development and education of undeserved youth and teens. So check the site out if you want to help some guys, some young kids who might not have the means to get to college. Go into his site, BattierTakeCharge.org. Throw some money that way. Get some of these guys, get some of these young bucks into school and see if they can make a life out of themselves. So thank you, Shane, for that. And let's move to the one and done for the day. I don't know. I have burger left. I think I might just go. I just might go top. Just go burger up top and just see what the hell happens. I think I might just go that way. I had Norin last week. So that one sort of hurt. And the worst thing is, I had Rom at the Memorial, so a couple of turns and I could be back in it at 1.8 million for the Memorial. Would have been sweet. Would have been right up there, but shit happens.
You know who I used last week? I used Will Zalatoris, and he made the weekend and came
what do you think,
DFL.
What do you think about Will? I think it might be Dunzo a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. Because you got to remember, before this last year, he never done shit. He didn't do shit. No Corn Ferry Tour, not that great. And then in the last year, it's just sort of just come up. I don't know. We'll see.
He was doing fine on the Corn Ferry Tour. He just wasn't winning, and he doesn't have the putter. That's the problem, and that's what's holding him back from it. But he's definitely not done. That's ludicrous. You can call it a run, whatever you want.
I maybe not done, but maybe for the next few events, I just don't see it. Maybe when he gets his tour card, comes back in a little bit more, he can get a little bit better. But I just don't
it's almost like what we talked about earlier, the age factor. He's still so young. They're learning things out there, man. It's like Neiman just could say he choked away another one and got another runner-up technically, or lost in a playoff again, second time this season. Well, it happens, but you got to put yourself there, give yourself the chance to get lucky. Things don't always break your way. The man had, go back to Neiman, 72 bogey-free holes before the 73rd, which is unfortunate. But I'm still in on Willie Z. That did hurt my feelings though last week when he finished DFL after getting through and grinding and making the cut. But hey, on this one, man, based on the field, I looked at my list today. I got 100% of everyone because everyone's not been used by anyone because you can use whoever you want in this field besides Berger, maybe Henley, a couple of guys. It's almost all guys nobody has ever used. So Berger, Harmon, Henley, McNeely, Patrick Rogers, if you want to go off the board a bit. I think you can use whatever. I don't think you'll get a unicorn using those guys. But you can. There's Hank the Tank. You mentioned play some of these guys. They're playing to win. They're all extremely motivated. It's a life-changing event for them. Same in one and done. If you get it right, you can grind your way up to the top. There still is. I would say there still is time. There's not a lot of time, but there's still time. And there's some big paydays ahead. So if you can pick some winners, you'll be in good shape. But I'll probably go Berger with you. Just try and get as much money as possible with the favorite, and then differentiate these other weeks. Because actually, you know what? Saying that, my strategy just changed. I'm not going to do that because I think that's what everyone will do. And I need to make up ground. So I'm actually going to switch it up and probably just throw a dart this week and pick someone way off the board and hope that they get motivated and find a way to pull off a Cam Davis here.
I hope and pray. All right. So, you can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. I always bullshit around there, especially on Sundays. You can ask me whatever you want on Twitter. You can find my weekly write-ups on gupscorner.com. I go on there. I got the course preview, stats to look for, trends, on Monday, and then I add my favorite DFS play in each price range. I just pick one in each price range, and then my final betting card is going to be on there. If you missed the podcast, my Casket Cornerstones are on there as well. So go check out gupscorner.com. It includes a 7-day risk-free trial. So you can just try it out. If you don't like it, bounce. It's risk-free. So go ahead and check it out. Tambo.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter as well at Totag and Tambo. Hit me up there if you got any questions. Like Kenny said, normally mess around a little bit, post some things out, but really just on there, trying to get as much information out as possible. Other than that, man, we got the promos we talked about, DraftKings.com. Use promo code FGD. Get yourself a discount there. Get a little bonus when you sign up. Get ready to go with that. Big week ahead. We talked about a lot of it here. Go to fantasynational.com/FGD. Get yourself 20% off your first subscription. $200 for the year is a steal. We use it on every show. And we're talking 50 shows, 46 shows, whatever it ends up being, the off season, everything, whatever you call it, what you will. You just want to try it out this week. This will be definitely the week to try it. Use that link, fantasynational.com/FGD. You get this week and the Open, which is next week. It's going to be a huge week. A lot of big contests, millionaire makers, 3 of them out there. So a lot of other good content still out there, Kenny, and coming. More news on that. Probably next week's pod or show, I guess I'll call it now when it comes out, on what I'm going to be doing going forward. Other than that, good luck to everybody this week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, I want to thank Pat Mayo, of course, for letting us on. A couple of scrubs out here doing our shows, doing our things. So we really appreciate it, Pat. We're glad to be with you guys on the Mayo Media Network. It should be fun. Looking for those crossover events. Should be a good time. We got this event today. The Skylash Open is a big one. So go ahead and listen to Sky and Tom. They've just been killing it over there on their Europod out there. It's going to be a low-scoring event. It's not going to be, an elite field or nothing, but we still do our thing. We do our cash. We do our GP. So let's win some motherfucking money, Degen Nation.